So, after quite a while, I was finally able to track down some of the Dead Space 2 figures. Well, not some of, all of them, since there's only two so far. I picked up both Isaac and the Slasher. Today, I'll be talking about the Slasher, obviously. So, like most of NECA's figures, he looks pretty cool in the packaging. It's very standard NECA at this point. Just up here, it says features removable limbs, 17 points of articulation. Got a cool picture of the Slasher. That's pretty cool. On the side, EA Visceral Games. Got a cool picture down here of Isaac and the Slasher. There is a bio here. If you want to read it, just pause it. So, I'm just gonna, open them up now and review them. While opening up the packaging, there is a distinct vinegar smell. I don't know why. It smells pretty awful. So, after opening him up, I noticed three things pretty much immediately. One, he looks very awesome. Two, his back has a very slimy feel to him. And three, he can barely stand up, even with the stand that's given. So I'll talk about the sculpt first. So pretty much like everything NECA does, the sculpt is pretty great. I mean, it looks very, very awesome. Very, very awesome indeed. There are a lot of gory details on this figure, which are really cool. But the fact that this figure is sold in Toys R Us just kind of baffles me. Like I said, there are a lot of gory details put into this figure, like the figure is missing the top part of his jaw, and there's some really cool detailing for where it should be. I also really like what they did with the hair. They have certain shading, it's just regular hair, but it's got spots of red in it, and I think that's just a really, really cool touch. You can see there's blood kind of dripping across the face, making it even creepier. The front of the body is also just as well done as the head, although I do think the backside is actually a little bit better, but I'll get into that when I get into that. Again, there's more blood spatter, which I don't like because it just looks like it was put on by a marker, kind of like the John McClane figure I reviewed not too long ago. And then he's got these two human hands coming out of his stomach. That's pretty cool. The top parts of his legs are just as gory as his stomach, with the hands popping out. And then at the ankle, more blood, some weird kind of cut-looking foot. It's very, very different. I'm blocking the light now. His other foot, I'm not a fan of the shape because it looks like he's wearing a high-heeled shoe. So yeah, his foot looks like it's a high-heeled shoe made out of meat. So again, his arms are very cool, very nicely detailed, but then you get to the main kind of draw of the figure and the characters is the little swords, whatever you'd call them, the slashing things. Whatever you want to call them, they are very well done. They look like they've been kind of sprouted out of the hands and that they're made of bone. You got some blood there, even though if they did come out of the hands, probably the whole thing would be covered in blood, and who knows what they've been doing. This one isn't so good because it's kind of curled. It looks like Tim Burton designed this one. I don't know, it's just kind of weird. It's because of the packaging, actually. Now for the back of the figure. The back is really great. You can see some really cool, really creepy looking. You got his spine here, runs up to his head. It is exposed, and it is quite disgusting looking. Pretty much his whole back has been torn off. It's just got some really, really cool details on it. Alright, so here is where the figure kind of falls apart for me, and that's the articulation. I like that NECA is kind of working on their articulation, but when it kind of hinders the pretty much everything else about the figure, you can see he's kind of gradually leaning backwards. It's because he can't stand up, and I'll get to that. Alright, so the head rotates. Doesn't seem to want to go all the way around on that one side, but it does rotate. It moves. Should use this hand. Up, down, just a little bit. The arms can move all the way around, up, down a little bit. They rotate. They should rotate here, but apparently they don't want to. There you go. And the hand also rotates, as does the little slasher thing, which is pretty cool. Other arm, pretty much the exact same thing. Something that I found to be a really nice touch is that these little hands are, in fact, movable. So here is where the figure kind of fizzles out for me. The legs. The leg articulation is pretty horrendous. Let me take him off his base. And then you got here, he can move this one around like that. His leg can move like that. His foot can move like that. And then this leg cannot move at all, no matter how hard I try. It will not move. This will rotate, as will the foot, but this just will not budge. And because of the terrible articulation in the legs, it kind of hinders the stand-upness of the figure. He can't really be displayed in any meaningful way. He just kind of just stands on the stand. If I put the other foot on the stand, he'll just fall over. And even if he is on the stand like he is now, he'll still just fall over. So that aspect of the figure is very disappointing. And I kind of wish NECA would choose either sculpt or articulation for one given figure. Like, either make the sculpt really good and have limited articulation, or have pretty good articulation with a decent sculpt. The only figure that they've really been able to merge the both of them that I've seen is Chris Redfield from Resident Evil 5. So like it says on the packaging, it has removable limbs, and I guess I'll show that off. Alright, so here I have my Dead Space 1 Isaac, kind of stomping on the Necromorph. You can take all of the limbs off, but I decided to leave some on just for show. But just know pretty much everything can be dismembered. And it sets up a pretty cool scene. Of course, now that I've taken the joints off, they're all extremely loose, meaning that's going to make posing this figure even more of a chore. So yeah, just give my closing comments here. Unless you are a big Dead Space fan, I would have to say this is unfortunately a pass. And like I said before, if they had just made this, if they had just focused on sculpting, it would have been fine, but then they added in all this unnecessary kind of extra articulation, and it doesn't really work. And the action feature, while cool, doesn't really work, because it overall hurts the figure in the long run. So yeah, just pass unless you are a big Dead Space fan, and stay tuned for my Dead Space 2 Isaac review.